So let's first take the functionalist perspective. Right? The functionalist perspective says that the world kind of works like this, right? Where society, groups, organizations, and individuals, society in general, is really kind of a series of interrelated parts that work together to create the whole in what we call society. So society is made up of a bunch of different parts. We can think about society as being comparable to a machine. So if you want to think about a nice sports car, there's thousands and thousands of different parts that all work together to make that a functional car, right? A functional vehicle that actually drives. You take out one of those parts or a series of those parts, the vehicle starts to slow down, right? Or dysfunction, and possibly maybe not function at all. So it goes from being a very expensive, well-oiled sports car to just a very large paperweight. Right? You can think about the functionalist perspective as comparing society to an organism as well. All of us here are organisms. Right? We are human beings. But we are made up of a variety of parts that function to sustain us as human beings. We have hearts, we have lungs, we have stomachs, we have brains, we have limbs. And without those parts, right, we may begin to dysfunction, and if you eliminate enough of those parts, we become no longer alive. So you can think about society as being a series of interrelated parts that kind of function together to create what we call society. When some of those parts begin to dysfunction, break down, or are eliminated, society itself can begin to dysfunction and eventually disintegrate. Right? Dysfunction and then disintegrate. So the view from the functionalist perspective is that society is really this harmonious thing, right? This harmonious entity of all the behavioral patterns that occur in groups, all of the behavioral patterns that occur in organizations, and all the behavioral patterns that occur within institutions provide some type of essential function for that society to continue to exist the way it does. Right? And these functions are both intended and unintended functions. So sociologists talk about the manifest functions of different societal parts, which means the intended functions, as well as the latent functions. Right? The latent functions, the unintended but very beneficial consequences of these behavioral patterns. Functionalists also talk about the dysfunctions of how groups, organizations, and institutions may be organized. And these dysfunctions can be, in fact, intended or anticipated, as well as unanticipated. So I have some great examples for you to explain the manifest and latent functions and manifest and latent dysfunctions of an organization that is located within the institution of education, college. Right? Very relatable, I would hope, in terms of the functions and dysfunctions of college. So, a manifest function or an anticipated function, one of the reasons why we have colleges and universities in the United States, they are intended to, A, create model citizens. Right? Because you go on to take that knowledge that you've learned and apply it in your daily lives, you become better citizens as a result, and society benefits. This is one of the reasons why we have public colleges and universities throughout the United States, and we see public colleges and universities throughout the world. Because one of the anticipated outcomes for that society that has universities and colleges is that their citizens are kind of better off for it. To have a knowledgeable citizenry is to actually have improvements in the economy, improvements in the family, improvements in the religious institution, improvements in government as a result of people kind of more knowledgeable in that society. Another anticipated function, right, manifest function of college is for job training, right? So another reason that societies have colleges and universities is to train people in very specific types of specialized occupations that require more of an education than what you can gain in your elementary and secondary education. So you all are coming here to become better citizens, but also you all are coming here because you want a job afterwards. And you want that job to be well-paying, you want that job to be rewarding, and you want that job to fit within the changing economy of the United States. And colleges and universities provide that, and it is anticipated that we are intentionally going to provide that for you. There's other types of benefits to going to college other than just creating model citizens and training people for occupations that actually isn't even intended by colleges and universities. First, one kind of unintentional benefit that colleges and universities provide to its citizens or provide to people within the society is that it acts as a marriage broker. Right? Colleges and universities act as a marriage broker. What do we mean by a marriage broker? You all are at the age now where you are exploring your options in terms of a significant other. So lots and lots of dating occurs within the context of the college environment. You go out on dates, you go to parties, you meet other people that you may be interested in a romantic way. And for many of you, or at least some of you, you may meet your future husband or wife or significant other in college. Right? So even though this isn't anticipated, right, it's not, the university isn't created to make families happen, to make marriages occur, to help perpetuate the institution of the family. It actually provides that function. Having lots of young people who are interested in the opposite sex or the same sex, kind of being together for a long period of time, for 4 years, going to different organizations and classes together, getting to know one another. As a result, some of you, if not many of you, will meet that person that you spend the rest of your life with in a marriage. So a latent function of college is that it acts as a marriage broker. Another function of college is that it is an unemployment solution. So within a modern economy like the United States that follows the principles of capitalism, we often in society have a surplus of people searching for a job when there is not enough jobs within the economy to meet that surplus. So historically, at least for the past 50 or so years, about 6% of people who are interested in finding a job cannot find a job within the economy. Right? Cannot find a job. This is known as the unemployment rate. Right? Known as the unemployment rate. So what happens to these 6% of people who are looking for a job and cannot find a job? Well, for many, they find that there is a place for them. Right? A place for them to spend lots of time, to be able to get training for a new type of job that they may be able to enter into after they graduate. So college has an unanticipated function of providing a place for a certain number of people within society who are unemployed to be able to come back to school, get retrained, and then go back out into the economy and get a job. Colleges and universities were not created to kind of provide shelter for those that are unemployed, but it has that latent or unanticipated function of doing so. Well, colleges and universities also, the way in which we've created them in American society, as well as societies across the globe, have some dysfunctions to them as well. Right? So there's problems that occur when you make decisions about how you're going to create an organization, how you're going to organize a group, how you're going to create an institution. One of the dysfunctions of college that is anticipated, right, that we know about, because of the way that we've designed colleges and universities to function, we know that one anticipated dysfunction is that people who go to college oftentimes leave college with a lot of debt, right? Colleges and universities in the United States, even public colleges and universities like IUP, are not free. And for the vast majority of you, the occupations that you have or the jobs that you have do not support the tuition that you have to pay to be able to get the education that you're trying to receive. So for many of you, in fact, most of you here at IUP, over 80%, leave here with some type of debt. Just by show of hands, how many of you have taken out a student loan since you got here at IUP? Anybody take out a student loan? Yeah. Colleges and universities anticipate this. We have designed the university system knowing that as a result of you getting an education, you are going to be saddled with debt at the end of it. That is an anticipated dysfunction of the college system. Another dysfunction is the fact that many of you, or some of you at least, I don't want to say many of you, some of you may go to the university for 4 years. Some of you may go to the university for 5 years. Some of you may even go on to get a master's degree and spend 6 years or 7 years. Some may get a PhD and spend 10 years getting an education, only to find out when you leave that the occupation that you've trained for no longer has the number of jobs available that you can get a job, or entirely has been eliminated. Right? Eliminated as you've been trained to do it. So colleges and universities know that this can happen. It's known as occupational mismatch. It can happen. Right? So for some of you, you may go off, major in something, and then once you've graduated, you have this wonderful degree, you go out into the job market and find out, oh, all the jobs have been taken. Or, oh, my industry has collapsed. I can't get a job anymore. Colleges and universities know that this is going to be a consequence for at least some of you. We anticipate this dysfunction. Try our best to make sure that occupational mismatch does not occur, but we know by the way that we've designed this system that sometimes that's going to happen. But there's also dysfunctions that are unanticipated, that the colleges and university systems don't anticipate, right? At least initially. So one unanticipated consequence of having lots and lots of young people together who may have part-time jobs, some of you may have full-time jobs, but for many people in colleges and universities, at least for some period of time, you are jobless. So outside of your classes, you have lots of free time that's spent with each other, outside of the, outside of the university system. We know that as a consequence, that's unanticipated, that things like substance abuse, people who are gathering together within the college system may engage in substance abuse, so drug use, illicit drug use, alcohol abuse, etc. And we also know that an unanticipated consequence of the university system is an increase in incidence of sexual assaults. Lots of young people all together, as an unanticipated function, we see people getting together, and as a result, we see an increase in incidence of sexual assault as an unanticipated dysfunction within the context of the university. Okay? So the functionalist perspective says that society is a series of interrelated parts that create a functioning whole, that is society. So the organizations, groups, and institutions all kind of make society function, but within these groups, organizations, and institutions, there are dysfunctions based on the way in which that institution is configured, right?